So how do we go about creating a list in R? Well, first of all, a list is stored as a list object, so that's the class of the object, and a list object can be created by using the list function. We simply pass the objects we want to include in our list as the arguments to the list function. Here's a very simple example. So we use the list function, and I'm going to give that list the vector 1 through 10, a matrix comprised of the values 1 through 10, but stored in 2 rows and 5 columns, and then also the mean function. So I'm not computing the mean of something, I'm actually just passing the actual function and storing that as an element of my list. So when I run that here, you can see we get kind of an interesting looking object that is returned, but what we were able to do is store 3 different types of objects in one data structure. You can't do that easily with any other data structure in R. Sometimes when you're creating a list in R, it's helpful to assign the elements of the list names in order to make them easier to reference later. To do that, we simply use the syntax name equals x in our list, where name is the name that we want to give to the element and x is the object we're including in our list. So this is sort of like how you can assign names to the columns of a data frame when you're creating the data frame. It works in much the same way. We have the name of the element that we are passing to our list function, and then we have the object that we want to include in our list function. So I'm using the list function again to create another list. The first element I'm calling A is going to be the vector 1 through 10. The second element is going to be called B and is the same matrix that we had before. And then the last element is going to have the name F, standing for function here, which is going to be the mean function that's available in base R. So I run that command and I print out the object, and you can see we get something that looks very similar to what we had before, but now each one of these elements is named. It doesn't simply have a number associated with it. Lastly, it is possible to create a new list by combining 2 or more other lists. And the way that we combine those lists is through the C function, just like we did previously with vectors. So in the code below, I'm actually going to combine 3 different lists into one list. So you can see I have one list here with numeric vectors, I have another list with character vectors, I have a third list with logical vectors, and I'm going to use the C function to combine them all into a single list. And so when I run that here, we can see that I have 6 elements in my new list, which makes sense since each of the 3 lists had 2 elements, and we have them all stacked on top of one another in a single list now.